Hello everyone and welcome back to our course. In this lecture, we are going to create some sample HTML that is going to represent the web page that we will scrape. You could also use a real web page, but for just starting out, for beginners, it's much easier to understand if you have your own sample HTML page. It's much easier to work with. So let's go to this website, jsbin.com. This is a free online code editor, and here we can code in HTML and we can instantly see the output, so it's going to be very convenient for us. All right, here I am going to change my title to site title. Inside of this head tag, this is where we have all of our metadata, like the character set, as well as the viewport width, and the title. In the body is where you actually render content itself. So let's put in some sample HTML here inside of the body. And this is what we're going to use to learn how to scrape a web page. So let's start off by putting a heading 1, and this is going to contain the text page title. A heading 1 is the largest of heading types. It signifies that this is the most important piece of information on the page. We can also give this heading 1 a class. Let's give it the class of title. And a class is an attribute that allows you to grab one or more items at a time and then do something with them. For example, with CSS, you could style all the classes that have the class title with a certain shared styling, such as color. With JavaScript, you could grab all of the elements that have the class title. All right, after our heading 1, let's then add a paragraph. And I'm going to put in some text here, like we are Team Mammoth. Our top courses are, and then I will close that paragraph tag. This paragraph tag, I'm going to give a class as well. I'll give it the class of description. And we can already see here on the right-hand side our output, where we have our page title and our description. All right, let's put in 3 links onto this page. We can open a link with an anchor tag, followed by a hyperlink reference. And then we can put in the link of the site that we want to go to. So I'll do https training.mammoth.com/hello coding. All right, so this here represents a site, and any text that is surrounded by an anchor tag, it will link to that page. This is just a sample page, doesn't actually exist, but I'm creating it for reference. Okay, so we can open that anchor tag and close that anchor tag. And then inside or in between the 2 anchor tags, in between the opening and closing anchor tag, we put in the text that we want to have the link. Here we go, we can see that, hello coding. All right, and I'm also going to give every anchor tag a class. I'm going to give it a class of course. And I'm also going to give every anchor tag an ID. And I'll give this the ID of hello coding. Now, whereas a class can be shared between different or multiple elements, an ID must be unique to every element. So you can't use an ID twice. You can only use a class twice or more. All right, then I'm going to put in a break tag to make sure we have a break in between the paragraph and the link. We could also optionally just take the paragraph and close it immediately outside of our link, just after the text. That's another option. That would give you a bigger break. For my purposes, I'm just going to have break maybe 2. There we go. Just for this quick prototype. Next, let's put in a second link. All right, so I'm going to follow a very similar process to how I created my first link. I'm going to have an anchor tag. The hyperlink reference will link to some web page, training.mammoth.interactive.com/Wall Street Coder. So this is a second course. I am going to close that opening tag and create a closing tag as well before I forget. Okay, and in between the anchor tags is where you put the text that you want to be linked. In our case, this will be the name of the course, Wall Street Coder. There we go. As well, I am going to give this anchor tag the same class because it's still a course, but a unique ID of Wall Street coder. Then I'm also going to put in a break tag in between the two anchor tags to create a space, a line break. And finally, let's put in just one more link. So for that, I'm going to create a break tag, and then I'm going to open up an anchor tag with a hyperlink reference. The link will be to another page, another web page on the internet. Now, this can be any page you want. I'm just using a sample fake page. I'll do machine learning for everybody. And then I will close that opening tag. And remember, you can use any link you want. Then I'm going to create a closing anchor tag, and I'm going to put in some text here, machine learning for everybody, and we'll see that text will have a link. And if you click on any of these, you'll be taken to exactly this page. You'll be taken to each page that the link links to. I'm also going to give this anchor tag a class. It's still a course, and the ID is unique though. It's now a new course. It's now machine learning for everybody. Awesome. Okay, then we can still put in more text because we're still inside of a paragraph tag. So we could say get them now. And I'm just going to add a break above that. Or maybe two. There we go. Okay, and then we can see that text, get them now. And we can add any more content to this page that we want. We can make it as complex as we like. I'm just going to add in one more paragraph. So I'll put in just one paragraph tag. Let me just zoom out here so we can see. Let's see. Okay, I am going to reset my zoom. Okay, that's fine. I'm going to make another paragraph tag. It will have the same class because remember, a class can be reused. So it will have the class description, just like the previous paragraph tag. And we can just put in 3 dots here and ellipses to represent that this page could have more content. Awesome. And now we have our web page being rendered here in the output. So this is the page that we are going to learn how to scrape. It's going to be a great first example, and it will be very easy to understand because we just built it out ourselves, so we know exactly what the page contains. If you're trying to scrape a larger site that has a lot of the code behind it, it's going to get more complex, but it's definitely doable. Scraping any web page is doable. But we're going to start with this simple example. So now that we have this HTML, go ahead and copy all of the code inside of this HTML. So you can hit Command A and then Command C to select all and then copy. Then go back to Google Colab, or go to Google Colab if you haven't been there yet. Google Colab is where we are going to start coding out all of our code. So this is where we're going to build our scraping project. We're going to create a variable called HTML, and we're going to use 3 quotes here, single or double, doesn't matter. This creates a multi-line string, and we're going to paste our HTML into that multi-line string. So what we've done here is we've just taken that website that we just built, and we're now translating it over here to Python. So in Google Colab, we're coding now in Python, and we're taking all that HTML that we wrote and just saving it as a string. So now our website is going to be represented as this string of different tags. And that's because if we want to practice scraping, this is going to be the easiest way to practice if we have it just here in this variable. Otherwise, if we wanted to actually access our real site, we would just have to go to the location of that site to scrape it. But optionally, we can just copy and paste our code here. It's just going to be very easy for us to see what we're doing that way. But the other way is available too. You could just scrape any site via its URL. You don't have to copy and paste all of its code. Awesome. Okay, so make sure you have gone to collab.research.google.com. That is where we are going to be coding all of this. So that is the link to that. Oh, great. So now that we have built out the HTML of our site to represent our website, we can now start using Python and the Beautiful Soup library to start scraping it. Let's start by importing Beautiful Soup. So I'm going to, here, inside of my code cell, I am going to from BS4 import beautiful soup. This is going to allow us to use the beautiful soup library, which is built for scraping. And note that we're implementing it or importing it from BS4. And because we're using Google Colab, BS4 is already installed and imported. We just have to specify that from there we want to import beautiful soup. All right, great. So now we can create a new instance of beautiful soup. We'll just make a soup variable and we'll instantiate a beautiful soup object. We have to pass in here 2 arguments. First, our HTML, which is our HTML variable. And that's just because this is the technique we're going with. We're copying and pasting the code into a variable. But you could optionally just scrape a site via a link. The second argument we have to pass in is a parser, and ours is going to be html.parser. There are multiple parsers. HTML parser is Python's HTML parser. There's also LXML and XML for parsing XML. And as well, you can do HTML5lib, which is going to be the same as parsing a web browser. All right, and just like that, we have a new instance of soup specifically on our site HTML. We can now print out the contents of our soup. So we can print out here soup. And if I run this code, I'm going to see the results of what's being stored in soup, which is going to be our HTML. Look at that. We have here our dog type HTML, our HTML tag, and just all of the tags. Now, if we want to format this with proper indentation, it's very easy to do so. We just have to add the function prettify to the soup, and I can show you that shortly. So we just take this soup and we add prettify. So we're appending that function to it, and that is going to indent properly all of that code. So here we see our exact website that we just built out. Inside of our body, we have that page title, we have the description full of links, and we have another description. So really, we only have 3 items, just one of them happens to be quite large. All right, and this is going to be the site that we are going to use to scrape. Awesome, so now that we have built the site and we've successfully imported beautiful soup, and we've verified that we've been able to create a new soup using our site, we can start scraping. So join me in the next lecture where we will begin our first look at how we can use beautiful soup.